This is the Oklahoma Talking Company. Welcome to Activate Your Strengths with Rhonda Boyle. StrengthsFinder 2.0 is an analytical assessment created by Gallup Corporation, and many people today are using it to change their lives, improve their relationships, and enhance their work experience. This is the podcast where we explore using your natural talents and gifts in your personal and professional development. And now, here's your host, Rhonda Boyle.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Activate Your Strengths show. I am your host, Rhonda Boyle, and I am excited for who we have in the studio today, Jason Baffrey.
I'm excited, too.
I don't know if you can stand it, because you're going to have two woo girls in here today.
Yeah, there's a lot of woo going on.
Lots and lots of energy.
Batten down the hatches.
There you go. So I am excited to introduce you to my friend and colleague. She is originally from Pittsburgh, and she is a rabid Steelers fan. She's married to Marlon, and they have 6 children between them. She was a stay-at-home mom, worked as a project manager, managed an intern program. She's also owned a retail business and is now a StrengthsFinder coach. And I have the joy of being able to work with her almost every day. She lives in North Edmond, Oklahoma. Welcome to the show, Patty Wilton.
Thank you, Rhonda. I am so excited to be here. I'm beyond excited.
I know, me too, me too. So we always start with our top 5 talent themes, and we're talking today about the StrengthsFinder 2.0 assessment, which you can take for $15 online. And so tell us your top 5.
My top 5 are learner, communication, activator, woo, and individualization.
Yes, awesome. So there's 34 talent themes, and we all have all 34. The question is, how do they show up in dominance? And for you, it's learner, communication, activator, woo, and individualization. So what's so funny is that you and I share 3 of our top 5.
Yes.
But we're different.
We are different.
Exactly. And the reason we're different is because we have different talents around the 3 that we share in common. And we call that theme dynamics, because every talent theme dynamically influences every other talent theme that you have. So we're going to discover a little bit more about our commonalities and our differences throughout the show. So let's tell everybody how you even found out about this test.
Well, it was about 1.5 years ago. A good friend of mine ran into you at a networking event and took the StrengthsFinder test.
Yes.
And came to one of your workshops. And she sent me an email and said, Patty, you need to call me. I'm so excited about something that I've done. So I called her, and she said, you need to take this test. You'll be amazed at the results that you get, and you need to get involved in this work. So I took the test, and about 2 or 3 months later, I came to one of your workshops, and the rest is history. I fell in love with it all and wanted to become a coach.
You did. I mean, it was immediate that you decided you wanted to become a StrengthsFinder coach.
Yes.
And within weeks, you were enrolled in and registered and signed up for classes. So, well, tell me, when you first got the, you go online, you take the test, there's 177 questions, and then you get your top 5. What did you think when you got those words suddenly?
Well, I looked at them and, they really made a lot of sense, but I wanted to know more, of course. I mean, if you look at my number 1 is learner, and I always want to know more.
Yes.
I always want to get more information. And
yes,
so,
you do.
But they really made a lot of sense to me. It resonated with me.
Sure.
For sure.
So let's talk about your learner. That is your number 1 talent. And so you're just learning all the time.
Yes, I live to learn.
You do. You really do live to learn. So you mentioned to me that you were very young when you learned how to read.
I was the oldest child in my family, and I was just fascinated by books. And so I pretty much, with my mother's help, taught myself to read. By the time I was 4 years old, I could read.
Yeah, wow.
Very well.
Sure. Not just little picture books.
No, and I always wanted to read more. I would read everything I could get my hands on. I would read signs, cereal boxes. I would sit with the cereal box in front of me and read everything on it. I would read the signs when we were driving in the car. I was always reading and wanting to read more.
Right. And then, which is very natural for people with learner, they turn around and teach what they know. So tell us who you taught.
Well, I had lots of dolls and stuffed animals, and they were my students, and I taught them lots of stuff. I'd line them up and teach them things.
There you go. And then you had some little people come along.
Right. I had brothers younger than me, 5 and 8 years younger than me, so they were perfect students.
That's right.
They would sit on the steps at home. That was their classroom, and I would be at the bottom of the steps and teach them whatever. I mean, didn't matter to me what it was that I was teaching them, actually.
Right. Well, and teaching is a natural, as I said, a natural extension for somebody with learner, because you get all this knowledge in your head, and what?
You want to share it.
Well, if you don't share it, then it sits there.
Right. Right.
And so we need to be able to get it out of you, because we need all that learning and that knowledge in the world. So we are grateful that you're now teaching StrengthsFinder, right? Because that's what you're doing.
Yes.
So, okay, so let's have a little confession. What kind of degrees do you have?
Oh, I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in business.
See, so people with learner, they're always going after more education, higher education. They have degrees, multiple, sometimes, double majors,
Right.
double minors, and so forth, because they're so thirsty for knowledge.
Well, and when I met you and I came to the first workshop, I couldn't wait to hear where the next one was. What's the next step? Where do I go from here?
Right.
And so I progressed through your work.
Yep.
And then you pointed me in a great direction for coaching certification.
It was great. So how many books do you have going on right now?
I probably have 3.
Yeah.
I have 3. I usually have one for entertainment, one related to my business, and one on just something else I ran across that looked interesting.
Sure. And that's the way learners are. You're very random you'll just pick something up and all of a sudden you're captured.
Yes.
Captivated. And then you kind of click the link and fall down the rabbit trail or rabbit hole, and then you're gone for hours.
When you know how on the internet you read an article and it says at the bottom, you might be interested in. I am always interested in and clicking on
the extra things. Now, one thing that's very interesting is that your husband also has learner.
He does.
Number 1
for him too.
So
Yes.
what's that like, having 2 learners in the house?
Well, sometimes we're kind of preoccupied and on our phones looking at information, or I'm reading a book and he's on the internet, or that kind of thing.
Right.
We each take time every day to do that.
So do you have common learning interests? I mean, how are you able to kind of like blend that together?
Well, we share a lot of what we see. An article that we've read will, technology today is great. You can share articles with each other.
Sure.
So in our messaging to each other is usually content of some kind. We're sharing with each other. But when we find an area of common interest,
Yes.
for example, this past summer, my husband took a class on learning how to grill and smoke and meat and food. And so that's something we do together, and
Sure.
we will do research. And one day we decided we were going to smoke a turkey, and we spent time sitting next to each other on the couch, each on our device, looking up the process and the recipes and the method. And so that's something that we did together and we continue to pursue together.
How fun. How fun. That's great. And now, do you have to have certain amount of time to learn? Because some learners, they need hours and hours every day.
I don't, but I do include it every day. I usually begin my day with 20 or 30 minutes of reading something.
Right.
And then I go back to it. It's almost for me like a reward. If I have work that I need to do, I reward myself at the end. Well, now I can spend, some time with this book.
Right.
Or that book, or on this website, or in this class. It's my reward.
Sure. It keeps you motivated to move forward and actually get something done
Yes.
with all this stuff that you're learning, right?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
good. Well, let's talk about your number 2 talent. You and I share this talent of communication, which means we yap a lot, right? Okay,
do.
we'll admit it. Jason, we are kind of talkers, Yeah, you're nodding. He gets it. He can't get a word in edgewise, poor guy.
No, we don't always remember to breathe.
This is true. Well, you know what else that we have discovered through our working together is that we talk while we think.
Yes.
So, in other words, we think out loud.
Most definitely.
And that can be kind of frustrating for people who don't have communication, because they don't get that we haven't come to a conclusion yet. And they think it's like prattling, or I don't know what they think actually. But
Well, sometimes I think they view me as I'm all over the place. If you ask me a question, I might go down one path and then switch abruptly to another. But then I finally figure out, oh, this is what I really think is the best decision or the best choice or the best option. But I have to speak it to get there.
I know. And so, people with communication are all about telling stories, but we also learn by repeating stories. It's a way that we kind of anchor in the information is by talking about it and telling somebody else about what we learned. So you were telling, your communication, you can see it clearly. You were telling your stuffed animals, and your little brothers about all that you were learning. But that's how you process the information. And I like to remind all of those thinkers out there who don't do a lot of talking that they're doing as much talking, if not more, inside their head.
Right.
It's just not, we just can't hear.
Well, and sometimes what I've found is I just have to tell people, I'm just thinking out loud here for a second, so just let me go on.
Yes.
And if I might seem off subject or off track, but I will get back on. I just have to process it verbally.
Yeah, and I find myself doing the same thing. Hey, I'm just bouncing around some ideas, and I tell people I'm thinking out loud because that's what we do. We think out loud, and it can drive our nonverbal people a little bit crazy. So let's talk about your activator. Activator is a talent that we both share also. And so we tend to jump when we see an opportunity. Bam, we're in it. We don't think about it. We don't plan for it. So I often say that our philosophy in life is, we don't do a lot of aiming, and we fire first. And then we go, oops. Oops is common in our vocabulary, isn't it?
I find myself thinking to myself, well, that didn't go so well. But then I quickly move on to another opportunity, another attempt.
Well, exactly. Yes. Because we don't feel failure.
No.
Like most people, especially if you're high in a talent, say responsibility, you feel failure. In fact, you do everything you can to avoid failure. Where those of us who have activator, my motto is we're making mistakes as fast as I can, or I am, right? Because that's how we learn. Mm-hmm. So for you, activator is another form of learning.
Yes.
Because
I would much rather try to do something than to sit and think about it. If I've learned something about it, I'm ready to move. I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to put it into practice. Try, move, go on, talk to somebody about it, whatever. I need to get started.
Well, in fact, you were telling me that if you're working with a group of people, you are always the first one in to jump in and get people moving.
Yes.
Well, and that's what activators are here for. We're here to light a fire under other people.
Yeah, I remember a lot of times in school when we'd be put on a team to write a paper, as soon as the group got their chairs huddled up, I'd say, okay, what are we going to do first? How do we move now? Who's going to do what? How should we start? What should we say? I would always start the conversation.
Right. And that's because activators are starters.
Yes.
And we take risk because we don't see risk is really what the problem is. We don't see it at all.
No.
Isn't it kind of funny that we both married men with deliberative? Jason, you have deliberative over there.
Yes, I do. I had to deliberate to think about turning the microphone on. So, yeah, I do. And
so we're kind of risky.
Well, apparently, yeah.
Well, I mean, things don't always go according to plan. And so someone with high in deliberative, they want the plan to be safe and they manage risk. And so I tell my husband I'm probably the riskiest thing he's ever been around, which is probably true for your husband too.
I would say that's probably the case.
That's right. That's it. But that's the way it is. Now, this activator that you have has been around forever.
Right. When I shared my StrengthsFinder results with my mother, she was pretty surprised the activator didn't come out number one because that's really what she thinks about when she thinks about me.
Yes.
And she told me that when I was very young, if she was going to say, we're going to go and get in the car, we're going to go to the store somewhere, she'd have to put her hand on me first to hold me still, to give me the rest of the explanation of where we're going to go, what we're going to do. And it was really hard for me to remember to hold her hand and look both ways before I crossed the street because I was just wanting what was on the other side of the street. And, and so that's very vivid memory for her. And I do remember her hand on me a lot.
She was trying to keep you in check.
Yes.
There you go. She was managing risk. The
Yes,
risk
she
of
was.
Patty. Well, that is, people with Activator, we really don't see risk like other people do. For us, it's all about action and movement and influencing others in order to move the project or the team or the event or whatever. It's taking that first step of action. And then guess what? People have to follow,
Right.
or they're going to be left behind in a lot of cases.
Right.
Because we're moving.
We like to stay out front too.
Yeah, we do. But we also like to move. Like, do you walk when you talk on the phone?
Of course. It's really hard for me to sit still right here, right now.
I know, right? If those of who are following us on Periscope are seeing us wiggling and moving our hands and everything.
Yes.
Because that's what we are. We're fidgety and if we're not moving. Because somehow that movement also kind of engages our brain too and informs, our next step and so forth. And, when we make mistakes, it really is, oops, and then we're moving on to the next thing.
Well, and I think, too, it kind of spills over into multitasking. We like to have several balls in the air because that's movement.
Right.
And so we start this, and then we'll do a little of that, and then we'll go on to the next thing. And sometimes that's a problem because sometimes the egg will drop and crack and break on the floor. But we try to keep them all up there.
Well, come on, let's admit it. We leave a trail behind us. I say that we have to give something for those restorative people to clean up,
Yes.
I mean, they're all about restoring order. We might as well give them something to fix, right?
Right.
So let's talk about your woo.
Woo!
Woo! Yes, you're a woo girl too, and I am. So woo is high energy.
Yes.
Have people told you your whole life they wish they could bottle up your energy?
I have heard that, yes.
Yeah. And you love people.
I do. I really don't like being alone unless I'm with a book, and then I'm not really alone.
Right.
I'm very collaborative in everything that I do.
Sure. And now, do you find yourself needing like new people a lot?
I'm excited about new people, very excited about new people. In fact, when I go somewhere, I always know who the new people are. I notice them.
Yes. And in fact, you are all about knowing people. And I think you said to me that you knew every one of your 750 classmates when you graduated from high school.
Well, I kind of felt like I did. And even to this day, I could go through that yearbook, page through that yearbook, and probably tell you something about them, that how I felt connected to them. Either they were in the band and I knew that because they were in band with my friend, or they were in the musical with me.
Right.
I knew about them. I knew where they lived. I knew if they went to my junior high or the other junior high before we went to the high school. I mean,
Sure.
I knew something. I knew some way of identifying each person.
Right.
That was important to me.
Well, and collecting people is what woos do.
Yes.
And if a woo is developed in this talent, they will collect people for a purpose.
Yes.
And that's what you do.
I think the older I've gotten, the more purposeful I am about it.
Yes.
The more I really like putting people to work. I really like taking people that I meet and connecting them to other people or to another purpose. I'm all about, okay, here's how I know this person. Here's the category they're in for me. Okay, now what? What can I do with them, for them, about them? And I really like helping the people that I meet. I like giving to the people that I meet too.
Yes.
It's not just, I'm not just some puppet master. It's not that at all. I really like getting people involved in things.
Sure.
Plugging them in or connecting them to other people that I know.
Right. Well, and that's the whole thing is woos really are connecting in order to be a conduit to connect them to something else. It's not like we gather people in just to kind of hang on to them. We're bringing them in to then move them somewhere else.
Right.
Somewhere for their benefit. Mm-hmm. Well, and hopefully at some point for ours. A lot of people who are woo find themselves in sales and that type of thing. So, but we're looking to move things forward through our people connections.
Most definitely.
So, yeah. So your number 5 talent is it's a very intuitive people talent. It's called individualization. And you see instantly how to make other people shine.
Yes, I am very, very quickly able to pick up on what they're good at, or someone. I think of someone else I know that might be like them.
Right.
What does that person do? Well, maybe this person I'm meeting today should know that other person because they'll have something in common, because they'll get benefit from knowing each other, and then they'll both be able to do what they do well together.
Right. Well, that individualization, it's kind of hard for people to understand who don't have it or have it lower. I have it kind of lower. It's number 9 for me. I use it intuitively also. I don't know how I use it as well as you do because it's so much higher for you. But it's very much intuitive.
Yes. Yes. I can almost see them doing something very quickly after I meet them. And it's I think the woo helps a lot, because when I make the connection, then the individualization is like, oh, and they'd be awesome at this, or they'd be really good at that, or I wonder if they are involved in this group or that group, or I wonder if they know this person. It just comes to me.
Sure. Now, you hate stereotypes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because not all things work for all people. And the way I'm wired is I want to find what works for each person.
Exactly. So you want to customize everything.
Yes.
For people.
Yes, I do. And I like things to be customized for me as well.
You do.
I really
do. So if somebody gave you a gift card.
It's not the best gift for me. Because I'm thinking, why don't they know me well enough to know that I love a book?
Right.
Now if it's a gift card to Barnes and Noble, that's a little better.
Sure.
But if it's just a Visa gift card, I'm thinking, wow, they don't know me at all. How come?
Or they don't have they're not high in individualization, most likely, because they're just doing something for convenience or whatever.
Yes.
But you would never give a gift card away.
I rarely do.
Rarely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because sometimes it's important for you to customize.
Yeah, sometimes a young person like my nephew will want it, but I have to put something with it.
Yes.
That's personal.
Yes.
Even if it's just a note that I write. But there has to be something personal with every gift. And I love giving gifts for that reason, because I love just thinking about that person and what I know about them and what I understand about them. And I want to feed into who they are, how special they are for being them.
Exactly. And that's it. You see the uniqueness in each and every person and how special they are and where they're going to shine, which makes you a great coach. This is one of the things that really, really helps you in your coaching.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So let's talk about coaching, because, the coaching doesn't really have necessarily a great reputation. There are lots and lots of life coaches, and people's perception of coaching is that let's just get together for coffee and have a chit chat.
Well, and with the talents that we just talked about, they may think that's what they're going to get if they coach with me. However, coaching really is about building a relationship to draw answers and solutions out of your client.
Yes.
It's figuring out where they want to go, a goal they want to reach, or a struggle that they're having, and looking through their strengths and figuring out how they can solve what's going on. And so it's really active inquiry. It's a lot of questioning.
Yes.
I don't do a lot of telling. I do a lot of questioning and making suggestions.
Yes. Kind of asking them and helping. You don't lead them. You're just more of a guide.
Right. And it can be something as simple as, I have this colleague at work and they really irritate me. Okay, well, I want to know, why are you feeling irritated? We just go down deep into what's being triggered in you.
Sure.
To make you irritated. How does it feel? What would it be like if you weren't irritated with that person? What might you accomplish? And so just to try to open up a thought process in the person so they can arrive at their own conclusions and their own solutions.
Well, and if I can just say that I think StrengthsFinder is such a powerful tool for coaching, because what we know is that underneath each talent is a deep need. They need certain things, like you need to learn. You need to process and think out loud. These are needs that you have. And so when you're sitting with a client, you're able to really look at their talents and then discover what their needs are.
Yes.
And that irritation or that trigger is most likely coming from an unmet need.
Right.
People want to give and contribute and serve. And oftentimes they're stifled because of what the people, not understanding the people that are around them.
Yes, and I think that the most exciting thing about it is if you can understand your strengths and own who you are, and you manage your own needs, then you know that your needs aren't being met. Or, for example, like I said, I need to say to someone, I need to keep talking while I'm thinking.
Correct.
I own that. and I'm sharing that with someone, so I'm bettering my communication with that person.
Right. How, in your experience, how would you help someone own their talents? How would you go about, what's the process that you would go about in order to do that?
Well, I think it begins with a dialogue like you and I have been having, where we talk about how does that strength look in your life? How does it feel in your life? How do you use it? What makes you under that strength?
Yes.
And so just getting an understanding, and some people think, wow, this is really who I am. And they get excited about it. And they feel more powerful knowing, well, this is what makes me me.
Yes.
And then we really start looking at how do the strengths work together, as you were saying earlier, the dynamic. Because my dynamic with the communication, the activator, and the woo is different than yours.
Exactly.
But I understand that these are all working together. And so I'm all about people. I'm all about knowing who they are.
Right.
I want to talk to them. I want to share what I've learned. And I want to figure out how I can put them to work, or who I can introduce them to, So they all do work together. And that's what makes me me. And I get really excited about it.
Right. But then helping them figure out how to claim and who they are. Do you have people who really don't like their talents? Is that something, or really don't understand them well?
Well, I do have a client who has a lot of relationship building and influencing talents, and not a whole lot of executing talents.
Well, that would be me.
Well, and I have several of them. And so they kind of think, I wish I could get more things accomplished. But I just like to tell them, but you're so strong in the way you are, and you do accomplish things. You have to point out that it doesn't mean that you're void of accomplishment, but you approach it in a different way, but you're special just the way you do it.
Well, and I think that we are conditioned in our culture to compare ourselves with other people. It's just what we do.
Right. Well, because I think when you go to school, it's all about what are you going to achieve? What are you going to accomplish? And so it's just making those check marks. So an achiever functions really well in school, but someone who's thinking all the time, maybe outwardly they're not accomplishing, but in their minds they are.
Well, exactly. And someone with woo and communication and activator might be called a disruptor in school because they're bored. Really?
Yes.
And they need to move.
In elementary school, there was a couple times my desk had to be out into the hallway because I kept talking to the people sitting next to me. Even when we were supposed to be doing a test or whatever, I would still be talking. And just, there had to be just a little bit of self-control. I had to learn it the hard way. I had to be out in the hallway, and then I'm thinking, man, I'm out here by myself. This is just no fun.
Right.
I want to be back with everybody else.
Well, I remember about 10 years ago finding my 7-year-old, my second grade report card, and I got an unsatisfactory in something, and the note said, Rhonda cannot be quiet or sit still.
I had a similar report card, and I'm not lying about that. That was my only It was an N at that time, needs improvement.
Yes.
It was the only one I ever had, and it was the same thing, that I did not just sit there and listen when it was appropriate to do so.
I know. So, but what's important about that is that these talents show up at a very, very young age. Very young. You can start to see them demonstrated.
Right.
I'm pretty sure my grandson has communication because he just chatters all the time.
He sure does.
That's right. So what would you recommend, somebody exploring coaching, how to get started, for example?
Well, I think that you really kind of need to interview a prospective coach because you want to have a fit with the coach.
Right.
You want to either feel like they understand you, mm-hmm. or have some similarities with you, or the fact that they're interested and have something to offer to you.
Sure.
But it's almost like any friendship, any relationship. You kind of know from the beginning if it's really going to work well for you or not.
Yeah.
And there's so many awesome coaches, and we're so lucky in Oklahoma City to have.
I think we'll have 10 by the end of 2016.
Yes. Yeah, and so that's really exciting. But,
I know.
But for anybody that's listening to the broadcast, coaching doesn't have to be face-to-face. It can be done on Skype.
Absolutely.
We're so blessed with technology nowadays.
Yes.
So, I would encourage anybody to look for a coach. I think everybody needs a coach.
Well, so let's tell our audience how we can reach you in case they want coaching.
Well, I have a website. It's pattywilton.com. And I'm here in Oklahoma City. I'm on Facebook. I'm a woo girl. I'm in the social media. So
Yes, you are.
so you can find me pretty easy.
Yeah, and you do Skype coaching.
I do.
Absolutely.
Yes, I do.
So that's something really significant for anybody looking for a coach. They can contact you, reach out, and interview you, see if you're the right fit, which I know
Yes.
that you would be for almost anybody. So awesome. Well, thank you. We're so glad that you joined us today. You've been listening to the Activate Your Strengths show, and my name is Rhonda Boyle. You can find me at theyellowsubgroup.com, and you can join our Facebook group at Yellow Subgroup. And you can find me on Twitter at Activate Strong and on Periscope at Activate Me. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Go live in your strengths. Bye-bye.
Activate Your Strengths with Rhonda Boyle is a presentation of Oklahoma Talking Company. Learn more and listen to other great programs at oklahomatalking.co. This has been a production of Destiny Creative.